Title: The Woman Who Called 911 from Inside Her Own Basement. Help this channel grow. Like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more stories. This helps us a lot. Thank you. The story begins. On the morning of October 9, 2018, a 911 dispatcher in Columbus, Ohio, received a call that still unsettles everyone who's heard the recording. It was a woman's voice, soft, panicked, and whispering like someone afraid to be overheard. "Please, send someone. I'm in my basement. I don't know how I got here." At first, the dispatcher thought it might be a medical emergency. The woman's breathing was uneven, her voice trembling. But then came the part that froze the operator. "I think someone's in the house. I can hear them walking upstairs." The line went quiet except for the faint creak of floorboards and shallow breaths. Within minutes, officers were dispatched to the address that appeared on the GPS trace, a modest single-story home on Whispering Pines Drive, belonging to 37-year-old Karen Holbrook, a local nurse known for her quiet lifestyle and early morning routines. When officers arrived, the front door was locked from the inside. The curtains were drawn, lights off. There were no signs of forced entry. They knocked, no answer. One officer circled the house and noticed a small basement window partially open. The glass was smudged, and the metal latch was broken. Fearing a break-in, they entered. The first floor was eerily neat. A half-eaten breakfast sat on the table, toast still warm, coffee half-drunk. The TV flickered faint static, as though someone had turned it off mid-broadcast. The only sound came from the faint hum of the refrigerator and the crackle of police radios. When they opened the basement door, a cold wave of damp air rolled up the stairs. The smell of concrete, mildew, and something else, faintly metallic, hung in the air. They descended slowly, flashlights cutting through the dark. At the base of the stairs, sitting on the floor in a wrinkled blue hospital scrub top, was Karen Holbrook, the woman who had made the 911 call. Her eyes were wide, face pale, hair disheveled as if she'd just woken up from a nightmare. But here's what immediately struck the responding officers. There were no signs of restraint. No visible injuries. No intruder. Karen looked around in confusion. "I don't know how I got down here," she whispered. "I was making breakfast. Then I woke up here." They escorted her upstairs, checked every corner, attic to basement. Nothing. No footprints, no broken locks, no sign of struggle. Paramedics were called to examine her. Physically, she seemed fine. But mentally, she was distant, staring blankly, occasionally turning toward the ceiling as if listening to something. Karen kept insisting she heard footsteps above her while she was trapped. But officers on scene reported no evidence of anyone else in the house. The call was logged as a possible home invasion, but with no suspect or evidence, it was temporarily closed as a welfare check. Still, one detail stood out in the dispatch notes. When the call recording was reviewed, investigators noticed something deeply unsettling. 7 seconds before Karen spoke, faint breathing could be heard on the line. It wasn't hers. 2 days later, detectives returned to the Holbrook residence after neighbors reported hearing movement in the house at night, long after Karen had been taken to stay with her sister. When officers entered again, the living room was untouched, exactly as before. But in the basement, something had changed. The dust on the floor showed fresh footprints leading to the far wall, where a section of drywall appeared recently replaced. Behind it, they discovered a narrow crawl space. Inside were remnants of old insulation, a broken lamp, and an object that would become central to the investigation, a small cassette recorder wrapped in cloth tape. It was labeled K3. Forensic techs played it back at the station. The tape captured low humming, faint whispers, and, halfway through, Karen's own voice. "Who's down here? Hello?" The tape ended with muffled footsteps and the sound of scraping against concrete. When questioned, Karen said she had no memory of ever using a tape recorder. She claimed she didn't even own one. Detectives began digging into her past, medical records, phone logs, and home security. What they found only deepened the mystery. Karen's home security cameras, which had been operational for months, went completely offline the morning of her 911 call. Logs showed the system was manually disabled at 6:42 a.m., just 12 minutes before she called 911. But the access came from her own login. Forensic analysis of her computer revealed late-night searches from the week prior, symptoms of sleepwalking, how to tell if you're being followed, and signs of intruders no one else sees. Her co-workers at the hospital described Karen as hardworking but increasingly withdrawn. She'd recently complained that someone was breaking into her house while she slept. Co-workers dismissed it as stress. She'd been working night shifts for months. Investigators began to suspect a mental health episode. But one detective, Detective Laura Chalmers, wasn't convinced. The breathing on the 911 call wasn't an audio glitch. She ordered a full sound analysis. The results were chilling. There were two distinct breathing patterns overlapping, one belonging to Karen, and another from a male voice approximately 2 feet from the phone. Someone had been in the basement with her when she made the call. The case was reopened. A new search warrant was issued. When police combed through the house a third time, they found a narrow vent shaft leading from the basement crawl space to a small storage shed outside. Inside that shed, they uncovered a thin foam mat, empty food wrappers, and a discarded hospital ID badge. The badge belonged to Daniel Avery, a janitor who had once worked alongside Karen at the hospital. He had been fired 3 months earlier for theft of medical supplies, and had gone missing soon after. Neighbors later recalled seeing a man occasionally near Karen's backyard, smoking by the fence, late at night. Detectives now believed Avery had been living beneath her home for weeks, possibly months. But if that was true, the question remained, why hadn't Karen seen or heard him sooner? And why had she said she woke up in the basement? Investigators pieced together the timeline using forensics, digital evidence, and Karen's own statements. The basement window latch, broken from inside, indicated Avery had entered weeks earlier. His fingerprints were found on the underside of the vent grate and on the recorder. He had likely hidden in the crawl space while Karen slept, surviving off her groceries and leftovers. But the most haunting discovery came from a second cassette tape labeled K2, found in the shed weeks later. On it, Avery's voice could be heard whispering to himself. "She doesn't know. She walks right above me. Every morning." He described her daily habits, when she left, when she slept, when she spoke on the phone. He seemed to take pride in knowing everything about her routine. Detectives concluded Avery had been secretly living beneath Karen's home, entering at night to take food, using her power outlets, and returning before dawn. The night of the 911 call, he must have entered the basement while she was upstairs. Karen likely went to investigate a noise and fainted from shock or exhaustion, possibly due to sleep deprivation from working nights. When she regained consciousness, Avery was hiding nearby, breathing audibly as she called 911. By the time police arrived, he had escaped through the vent into the woods. 3 weeks later, hikers discovered a decomposed body near a drainage tunnel 6 miles away. Dental records confirmed it was Daniel Avery. Cause of death, exposure and dehydration. Authorities ruled it an accidental death. The case was officially closed. But the unease lingered. Karen later moved out of the house, selling it within months. The new owners reported strange noises in the basement during renovations, soft tapping sounds and the faint hum of a man's voice captured on a baby monitor left running overnight. Forensic tests on the recorder found microscopic mold spores matching the same type as those in the crawl space, proving it had sat there for months undisturbed. The final police report summarized the event as a case of unlawful habitation resulting in psychological trauma. But to those who heard the original 911 tape, the explanation felt incomplete. The dispatcher who took the call still remembers that faint voice breathing near the phone before Karen ever spoke, a voice that should not have been there. And though the case file remains closed, one unanswered question still circulates among the local officers. If Avery was the only one there that morning, who made the second sound on the recording? If you thought this story was terrifying, wait until you hear what happened in the next one. Subscribe before it drops.